Beginning of the story, let's welcome Mark and let him finish it. Thank you.
Set up like a movie. Hopefully the climax isn't too bad here, but all right, I just want to talk about just the importance of football, which is probably a good crowd to talk about that. Thinking about memories, lessons, relationships that are created with football, and then the impact that a football coach can have. Obviously, now I'll get to my story here, but I've had this will be my 11th year as a head football coach. I'm at Little Chute High School now, so just talk about how Coach Biolo has impacted me and how football coaches can make a huge impact. I think probably important to start, though, with, as he mentioned, the families and the wives and how much that they do for a team. I think of my wife, Brianne, who's sitting here with the kids here, and the early mornings where I'm basically gone before they wake up because I'm going to workouts, or the late nights where I'm home and they're already in bed and everything's done, and sometimes I'm not seeing them and she's doing all the work, whether she's sitting in the crowd and having to listen to parents who don't necessarily understand that midline and inside beer, triple are the best plays in football, and they don't actually understand that. It's pretty impressive what she puts up with, I guess, to allow me to do this. Think about Tracy, too, over the years. I think an underrated fact of the graphics and stuff that Coach Biolo had throughout the years. I think he was ahead of his time in the early 2000s with the graphics, the posters, all the Rapids football stuff that we had around, and I think she credit to her for that. I remember at the All-Star game coaching with him, and she had this fancy paper that he had some stuff printed on it. I think it was like genetically engineered waterproof paper. It was amazing, and I was just amazed that she hooked me up with that and got me some of that paper for my first year at Appleton East. I definitely couldn't afford it, but she made it happen. I appreciate that. We still have that paper, by the way. Kids still remember that. It doesn't disintegrate, so that's probably why as well. But yeah, my on-the-field story obviously is going to be different than the guys coming up. Was not a starter, and unfortunately didn't get the chance to be on the field. But I think my story kind of led me to where I am today, and hopefully it has helped some other guys that I've coached, and I could bring something to the table. I didn't end up playing for the Packers or get drafted, although that was the original goal, but it didn't. Some lines got twisted there at some point. Didn't happen. But when I did tear my ACL after finally committing for 2 years of putting in the work, because I'm not saying I was the best athlete, but I finally committed and put in the work, and when that did happen, it was definitely the worst event of my life, and my response at the moment definitely wasn't the best. It was kind of moping around, depression, and feeling sorry for myself, and it wasn't great, but eventually came around and was able to stay with the team, and I appreciate Coach kind of allowing me to do some different things with the team and be with my brothers. The hardest part of it was missing out on some of those opportunities to be with the team, to be just together, whether it's at practice or what it is. But it led me to coaching for sure, because I wasn't necessarily the best leader back in the day, or wasn't the vocal leader, or didn't do all those things. But it definitely led me to say, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to make an impact somehow. I want to coach and make some things happen at wherever I can be. And so actually started with Coach Fight giving me a chance to coach some 8th grade football. Actually, when Vince was in 8th grade with some boys, they had a pretty good squad back then, believe it or not, in 8th grade. Actually, the Pacelli Middle School team, I remember at halftime, they just called the game just too rough of tackling. So they called the game at halftime. But seeing those guys come up was awesome. And then Coach Biolo giving me a chance. I, like him, was driving from UWSP and helping coach with JV, coaching receivers, and was coaching when Vince and the boys were back at State, and so that was an amazing opportunity for me. But another leadership example, too. Football comes leadership, and I appreciate that Coach Biolo was building more leaders, not just, leadership is building leaders. It's not creating followers or bossing people around or demanding. It's creating more leaders that are branching out, and I appreciate that about him. And now I'm trying to do that same thing. For example, at Little Chute, I got a guy that I coached my first 2 years at Appleton East, and now he's coaching with us, Spencer. He's doing an amazing job, and it's awesome to have him with us and see the impact he's having with the kids, and the kids are loving it, and he's all in. And so just creating more leaders is kind of part of the game as a football coach, I think. But so my event, you can hit that slide. I got a couple pictures. Keep me on pace here. So that event to tearing my ACL kind of came first full circle when I got to Rib Lake, my first head coaching job. and I met a guy named Tim Kite that was coming to Rib Lake, a town of like under 500 people. I think he was coming because the St. Croix factory is up there in Park Falls, so that's why he made the trip up there. But he worked at Ohio State football. He was there when they won the national championship with their third-string quarterback, Cardell Jones, and he worked with Urban Meyer, and he instilled a system of behavior, I guess, or behavior skills. It was E plus R equals O, and that poster, again, was printed and created by Tracy, I believe, for an all-star game. But event plus response equals outcome. So obviously, we can't control a ton of events in our lives. We can't control any events in our lives. We don't ultimately control the outcome. If we did, win every single football game. We obviously can't control that. But we could just make an impact on it and choose the best possible response. According to Tim Kite, you can either choose a discipline-driven response or a default. So it's either intentional, skillful, on purpose, or it's kind of default, autopilot, impulsive, resistant. And I don't think we perfect these. I definitely don't perfect these. For example, my 3-year-old Angel over there, sometimes in Walmart, she wants something and maybe just won't go out the door. And sometimes I maybe give in or snap at times. But just trying to get reps and reps and reps at having a discipline-driven response and trying to be the best version of yourself and just trying to kind of win each moment. There's plenty of tougher events than tearing an ACL as well. And one thing that Tim Kite would say that I really liked was the tougher the event, the more important the response. I think of one of our teammates back in the day, Josh Uttermark, who battled leukemia for 7 years, and that's a much tougher event than I was dealing with. But he's an example of discipline, man. He was getting after it. He was joining our 12 Days of Christmas workout at Appleton East, even though he was battling all that. So there's much tougher events than what I, dealt with. But having him as an example of relationship. So at his funeral, it was like we got all the guys back together from those years, and it's like we didn't lose any time. We're talking about the memories. We're still talking about quotes that Coach Nelson would say during film time. We're still saying these same things that you wouldn't think was something that people would remember, but it turned out to be a core memory that guys, they remembered forever. And speaking of memories, I think that's what a football coach does too, is create these memories that guys talk about. I think Coach Biola was good at this too. Think about, I was reading a book called The Power of Moments. That's why I have that up there. But it said, beware the soul-sucking force of reasonableness. So sometimes you got to do some unreasonable things to create these memories. I think of going to Iron River, driving 3 hours and staying nights in a stuffy gym. That's kind of unreasonable, and it doesn't really make sense to do that. But those are the things that people talk about. I think last year we went on a camping trip. I took 50 high school guys on a camping trip, and that was kind of unreasonable because I didn't get a lot of sleep, and I'm kind of worried about what's going on. And it probably made it worse that an hour after we showed up, there's 3 vans of high school girls from a church camp that showed up just right across the way. So again, no sleep was had, kind of unreasonable, but those guys are talking about it. That's stuff that they're talking about still to this day, and they appreciate that. So I think in closing, I think Coach Krenz and I are kind of in the same boat. I'm at a new spot right now at Little Chute after 7 years at Appleton East, and it's kind of the takeoff spot. And I saw a quote that I really liked that I told to the guys the other day. It made me steal it. I stole it from somebody else, but it said, if you are inches off on the landing, it's no big deal. But if you're inches off on takeoff, you missed the moon by 1,000,000 miles. So just thinking about setting the standard on day one, right? It's like we're coming into solid programs with a good foundation, a good tradition. There doesn't necessarily need to be a complete overhaul or rebuild, but what small things can we make sure we instill so that we're on track? Because if we let those small things slip, guys shows up late, guys driving way too fast in the parking lot. Just happened to me the other day. If we let that stuff slip, then we end up way off the moon. And I'm not saying, I know Coach the same way. We're not talking about winning a state championship today. We're just talking about winning these events, discipline, and every moment that happens, just trying to win each moment. So thank you to Rapids football. Thank you to Coach Biolo. And good luck to Coach Krenz and the boys. And thank you.